This is Dan Wooten, Outspoken's biggest freedom fighters in the world today.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this guy doesn't work for the establishment. Oh, no. Dan Wooten isn't part of mainstream media networks still. Dan Wooten's not a mainstream media guy. I mean, listen to his voice. Dan Wooten? You know, he's got one of those... This guy is the most obvious mainstream media goon masquerading as a cancelled freedom fighter you've ever seen in your life. First of all, look at this guy's career history. He has worked for some of the biggest scumbag organizations, news of the world, The Sun, the real gutter press, his whole career. Right? Nobody is more mainstream media, born and bred, cut and dried than Dan Wooten. And listen to his voice, like, hey, I'm Dan Wooten, Outspoken. Here I am on YouTube. I'm just like one of you guys. I'm not associated with the mainstream media at all. Like, this guy can't even talk like a normal human being. Hey, guys, welcome. My name is Dan Wooten, and I'm no longer associated with the mainstream media at all. I am not at all like the guys you see on the news. You can tell by the way I talk that I'm just a regular guy like one of you guys. Shut up, bro. Nobody's buying this.
At number 10, Dave Chappelle, the uncancelable anti-trans comic.
See, it all seems great, doesn't it, on the surface? It's like, hey, Dave Chappelle, the freedom fighter, he's uncancelable. Well, why is he uncancelable? Why is he uncancelable? I'll tell you why he's uncancelable. Because he's part of the whole Hollywood crew, that's why. And he's a very good comedian. But top 10 freedom fighters, what was Dave Chappelle doing while they were taking your rights away? What was Dave Chappelle doing while people were being coerced into taking the you-know-what? I'll tell you what he was doing. He was performing concerts with the Foo Fighters at Madison Square Garden where everyone in the audience had to be you-know-whatted. Okay, that's what he was doing. He was out there saying, oh, I've caught COVID publicly. I've got COVID, so I'm not going to be performing anymore. That's what he was doing. It's like, name some freedoms that Dave Chappelle has won for you. Top 10 freedom fighters. When things actually mattered, when the you-know-what hits the fan, what were the people on this list actually doing? Because Dave Chappelle was saying, hey, yeah, you can come and see me if you go and get the experimental medical procedure along with the old Foo Fighters. That's what he was doing at the time. Research it. Check it out. That's what he was doing. You know? And the whole trans thing, they don't mind if you argue about that. They especially don't mind if you do some sort of material that pisses people off. They don't mind if you polarize people. They don't mind if you perform the sort of stand-up that makes a bunch of people be like, oh, you're being so mean to trans people, and the other half of people being like, yeah, F off, we don't care about these trans people. They love that. They love that. They want people to argue about the trans issue. That's what they want. Also, the whole anti-trans, anti-woke, this whole thing, it's a big nonsense. You know, it's not woke that's destroying the world. You know what I mean? Like, who is woke? What is woke? Woke isn't the enemy here, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Woke is a smokescreen that the enemy uses to make you go after woke. And if we can just defeat woke, and they give you these ridiculous things like men in women's bathrooms, and they create the whole narrative around, oh, we got to stop men in women's bathrooms and stuff which people obviously know is nonsense, like men pretending to be women and all this kind of stuff. It's not the real crux of the matter here. You know what I mean? The real crux of the matter was, you're a celebrity, you got a huge audience. Are you going to coerce people into taking an experimental medical procedure? And with regards to Dave Chappelle, the answer was yes. That is exactly what he was going to do. And that's how you're part of the big Hollywood elite and you're best friends with Naomi Campbell and all this stuff. Give me a break. Give me a break listing Dave Chappelle as a freedom fighter. Right. You're 0 for 1 so far, Dan, with your list of top 10 freedom fighters. Who's next?
At number 9, Liz Truss.
You taking the piss? This guy is not serious. Liz Truss. Wow, this I've got to see, Dan. This, even for you, a mainstream media weirdo, this is incredible.
The former British Prime Minister exposing the deep state.
Oh yeah, Liz Truss really exposed the deep state. I'm sure Liz Truss is up there on the deep state's most wanted list with Isaac Cappy and Avicii and Liz Truss. Yeah, okay. Okay, newsflash for anyone that doesn't understand how this works. There is absolutely no chance whatsoever that you can hold a position of Prime Minister of Great Britain without being part of the whole establishment game. There's absolutely zero chance. You think you can work your way up through the Conservative or the Labour Party or the two-party system and be this sort of maverick sticking it to the deep state? This is one of the most hilarious ones ever. Please, Dan, go on.
After being deposed by the establishment after just 44 days in office, Britain's MSM and Civil Service blob thought they had defeated Liz. But her most important job is to come, exposing how unelected bosses at out-of-control bodies like the Bank of England can now directly undermine democracy.
Let me explain to you how this works. You know, again, it looks good on the surface, doesn't it? Oh, she exposed the way this or that worked. What does she change? Nothing. What freedoms do you have now that you didn't have before Liz Truss? Nothing. Occasionally, what the evil people that run the world will do is they will show you how effed everything is. They will show you, look how corrupt government is. These people or organizations basically run the country and your vote doesn't mean anything and this and that. And they do so to demoralize you. They do so to terrify you. They do so to get you to give up. They do so to let you know that their boot is right on your neck and there's basically nothing you can do about it. And someone like Liz Truss didn't change any of the things that I just mentioned at all. They just sort of exposed it to you in a way that just makes you feel hopeless. You know, and most people are awake to this sort of thing. But this list by Dan Wooten, it really does expose, you know, how these people want you to think about these characters. You know, anyone on this list, you know, you can be sure is suspect. If Dan Wooten's out there telling you this guy's a freedom fighter, News of the World scumbag Dan Wooten, hey, here's a list of freedom fighters, you can be sure that they are bogus.
At number 8, Chris Pavlovsky, the Rumble boss, challenging the YouTube monopoly.
Bollocks. Excuse my language. As somebody that's censored on YouTube, as someone that's spent their whole life being shadow banned and censored, I know exactly how it feels to be shadow banned and censored. And the same stuff that happened to me on YouTube has happened to me on Rumble. They might not take none of your videos down. Okay, they might not pull any of the stuff that you put up there, but they're certainly there to limit the reach that you can get if you're not on YouTube. For a start, the user interface, you know, the chat and stuff looks like it's worse than like a chat room from the internet on the 90s, you know? Like these alternatives to YouTube, they're made to look deliberately rubbish, you know, in order that, you know, the content on there just seems to most people like it's not as shiny as the YouTube stuff. There's no reason why somebody couldn't create a competitor to YouTube that looks just as good as YouTube. You know, that's the design thing. They've obviously designed it in such a way that it looks crap. The same thing with Odyssey, and they have these really weird emojis. It's like any content that's not on YouTube, they want to look sort of slimy and second rate, you know, and they're not just going to allow a competitor to YouTube to pop up because YouTube is how they control all the video in the world. They have to own the competition second in line as well. It's the same way that Dan Wooten works. It's, you know, hey, I'm the mainstream media journalist. It's on your side. It's like, no, you're controlled as well. In the same way that YouTube is, and you look at the people that sponsor Rumble and that own it, you know, you can do your own research. Amazing Polly's done some great stuff on this. But yeah, Rumble is not what it appears to be either. This is actually a great list of Dan Wooten on people that are portrayed a certain way but are actually a different way. Thanks, Dan.
At number 7, Megyn Kelly, the world's biggest female broadcaster.
Dude, even his list of like anti-establishment freedom fighters is presented in the most establishment way you could ever, you know, the world's biggest female broadcaster, like that matters at all. The whole, like, the first female, the first black, the biggest female, the most disabled person on the television, you know, that whole thing is designed to segregate people and separate them. You know, even Dan's freedom fighter list, he presents like he's part of the establishment, which of course he is. Listen, people like Megyn Kelly, these giant people like Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, these people that were made ginormous by the system, The idea that they've now gone rogue and they're a thorn in the side of the system is the most obvious Trojan horse setup you could ever imagine in your life. It's like, oh, they're the biggest people in the world, and you'll flock to them to listen to what they have to say because we made them with our giant media network. And now they've gone rogue and they're against us, and you should think what they think. And they'll tell you what to think instead of us. They don't work for us still, even though they have their little weird red bracelets like Tucker Carlson, but I guess we'll come to him. But, you know, that's the story here now. That's the story. People like Russell Brand, people with these giant audiences that have gone rogue, that are loose cannons. Listen, that just does not happen. I'm sorry, it just does not happen. If you're one of the biggest X in the world, you've got the biggest audience, the biggest voice in the world, okay, there's absolutely no chance that you are against the world. You know? If the world loves you that much, there's a reason for it. And it doesn't matter how much these people try and pretend like they're against the world. It's like, the world loves you, dude. You're the biggest female broadcaster in the world. How did you get there? How did you get there? By telling truths about the establishment? Please. Okay, we're not 6 years old. We know how things really work. Okay? You might be able to sort of brainwash some sort of normie with this list and this presentation, but for people in the sort of truth movement, if you like, people with discernment, you know, this is really sort of childish level stuff, Dan, but you must know that.
At number 6, the former US President Donald Trump. Any fair-thinking person must admit that the big tech censorship of the democratically elected 45th President of the United States was one of the most sinister attacks on free speech in history.
Listen, my thing with Donald Trump has always been, you know, I want to believe in him. I used to believe in him. Back in the whole fake news era, in the whole Q era, you know, Donald Trump seemed to me like a really believable character who was really fighting the establishment. Okay, back when it was like, the arrests are coming, you know what I mean? There's 17 flags on the airplane, all that stuff. I loved all that stuff. It seemed legitimate to me now. Okay, but I always used to say, I've never seen any evidence that he's, you know, a bad guy. The biggest piece of evidence I have that he's a bad guy so far is that he's on this list. To be honest, that's how bad I think this list is by Dan Wooten. If you appear on it, I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical. And one thing you would have to say about Trump is, you know, he was the president of the United States of America while all this stuff was going on. And, you know, none of it was stopped. You know how, like, all the internet censorship took place under his watch? You know, all of the mass vaccinations took place, you know, under his watch. And much as I still think there's a chance that he's a good guy, you know, it is about time for some of the stuff that, you know, we were told to believe about him would be delivered now. You know what I mean? Like the arrests, you know, the children underground, we're letting him out. You know, it's the biggest sting operation the world has ever seen. You know? X-22 report. And we know, you know, come on, guys, when's this stuff happening? You know what I mean? Okay, next.
5, Tucker Carlson, the most influential news host on the planet.
See this section about Megyn Kelly and just wash and repeat without the female bit. The thing with Tucker Carlson is now he's on X, which is suspect, as you know, run by Elon Musk, who's suspect, as you know. And he has these conversations with people like Brett Weinstein, who's incredibly suspect. You know, and this whole network of people like Elon and all these people that you're given now as your heroes, they're all incredibly suspect. They all cross-promote each other. You know, Tucker was made massive by the mainstream media, and now he's this massive figure who's gone rogue despite the fact that he's got this huge audience. You know, and it's not difficult to figure out how this network operates. Here are some giant figures from the network who have split from the network, and they're now not in the network anymore, and they're going to tell you what to think. Except that if you really sort of show discernment and analyze who these people are talking to and what they're telling you to think, it's just as suspect as back when they were on the network.
There was a time when being sacked from Fox News, even as their most powerful presenter, marked the beginning of the end of your career. For Tucker Carlson, it was only the start of an even more important phase.
Yeah, this is the really suspect stuff, Dan. You know what I mean? It's like previously, if you got sacked by the mainstream media, you'd be screwed, but Tucker Carlson's just the best thing ever since it happened. It's like, yeah, that's why nobody trusts this guy. Dan, do you even know what you're supposed to be doing?
At At number 4, Ricky Gervais, the anti-woke comedian who doesn't give a damn.
Well, he certainly gave a damn when it mattered. He gave a damn enough to push the old experimental you-know-what. That's what I think about this guy. Ricky Gervais, he's the greatest. He sticks it to power. Vaccine pusher. Next. I don't care how anti-woke you are. When people's rights will be taken away and we're being coerced into having an experimental medical procedure and they were giving it to children, etc., etc., Ricky Gervais was out there just clapping along, roll up my sleeve, take a photo, get one of me being jabbed, guys. Let's push it out there. Okay, spare me this whole, he's this crusader, he's uncancelable. He's part of the whole thing, man. He's out there pushing alcohol now. He's out there pushing his alcohol on people now. Loser. Next.
Thanks to his hit Netflix comedy specials, Ricky is the true definition of uncancelable, and he doesn't care one bit with anyone with privilege or power thinks about his shtick. Nothing summed that up more than this riposte to the gathered A-listers and Hollywood executives while hosting the Golden Globes.
Yeah, it all sounds great, doesn't it? And you look at the clips of him saying, hey, you're all pedophiles, and them all like, and it's like, wow, Ricky really let them have it. Ricky's exposed that they're all pedophiles, right? And what happened to him? Nothing. No one was arrested for being, you know what? You know the things that Ricky accused them of? It's like being pedophiles, being child sex traffickers, you know, stuff that you should go to prison for. Except none of these people have gone to prison. Nothing's ever happened to them. And all this speech ended up doing was sort of make most people think like, oh, wow, they got told there, man. They got what was coming to them. No, what's coming to them in a just world would be, you know, life in prison or being executed. Instead, it was just like, wow, roasted. You know, that's the service that he did from there. You know, their crimes and their nature is sort of being brought out into the open in a sort of way that's like, oh, wow, they got the appropriate ribbing for that. Okay, so they're still famous and they're still free and everything's fine. No, send them to prison, execute them. That's what they actually deserve. Whereas instead, you get made to feel like, oh, justice was served there because Ricky sort of told a couple of jokes. Whereas in actual fact, no, these people should be in prison.
At number 3, Joe Rogan, the independent media superstar.
Independent media, my ass. Do you think that the people that run the world, they don't control the biggest podcast in the world? It's unstoppable. You know, it's their blind spot is the Joe Rogan Experience. These guys, you know what I mean? Like the podcast that promoted people like Elon, you know, Elon and Joe, and think how many of these people of the New Narrative Network were birthed on the Joe Rogan podcast. And the Joe Rogan podcast is made to seem like, hey, it's all organic and it's natural and Joe's just having a chat and it's not shaping the way you think, but that's exactly what it does. It shapes the way you think. Big time. It shapes the way you think. And it does have sponsors. And they get the guy that gets hundreds of millions of dollars from the establishment and the system is not part of the system. Okay, guys. I mean, I've talked about this at length in other places, but it looks good, doesn't it, the Joe Rogan Experience? It looks great. It looks like this. It's just this giant independent podcast that's sponsored by Spotify for $300 million a year. Okay.
At number 2, J.K. Rowling, the Harry Potter author and biggest defender of women's rights on Earth.
Nope. Biggest defender of women's rights on Earth. What rights do women have now that J.K. Rowling won for them? None. So she has very public arguments, and she's on the right side of the arguments in terms of like women are women and you can't be a man with a penis that's a woman. But I'll tell you what, how did she become rich and famous? I'll tell you how she became rich and famous. What they've done is they've repackaged the occult. So things like witchcraft, spells, you know, vampires, all this kind of stuff. They've repackaged it. There was sort of outrage back when people used to believe in God. There was a sort of outrage when the occult was sort of exposed and people that loved Satan and devil worshipping, that sort of stuff. And what it's done is repackaged itself as children's entertainment. That's why all Disney is spells and magic and casting, and it's the same thing with Harry Potter. What she's done is she's written a bunch of children's books about the occult. You know, wizards and spells and, you know, magic. And it's made the occult seem like it's children's entertainment. That's how she's made so much money. Because these films and these books, and I don't believe the whole story of she wrote them all under a little church in Scotland. Get lost. Get lost. If you have any idea about the occult and witchcraft and that sort of thing, that's basically what Harry Potter is about. It's about making witchcraft and the occult seem like this kind of cutesy-wootsy, children-y, wildren-y, funny-wunny world, when in actual fact, it's an abomination to the Lord. Okay? It's not cute and it's not fun and abracadabra and all this crap. No. It's an abomination to the Lord. And that's the role that J.K. Rowling has played. And that's why she's got all this money, because she's repackaged the occult and made it popular to children. Next.
And at number 1, Elon Musk, the billionaire businessman and owner of X.
Yeah, you're the billionaire freedom fighter that's making sure everyone has free speech. That's what he's doing. Yeah, okay. The Satan-worshipping, devil armor-wearing transhumanist that wants to put a chip in your brain, that's building a giant digital prison online, that's soon going to be pushing digital ID, that renamed Twitter to X, which has got all these weird sort of spiritual, demonic undertones that people that know how to see these things actually know about. This is the guy that's the ultimate freedom fighter. The guy that's all about space and brain chips and transhumanism. You look at his family connections, do a bit of research. Look who his family is, look who his mum is, look who his dad is. He's not wearing the Baphomet armor, the Satan's armor, for 6 months on his avatar profile picture for no reason. Okay? The Elon Musk is the ultimate, like, oh, this guy's so on our side. He's this billionaire that sticks up for us. So put his chips into your brains. Good one. Good one. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? What do you think of Dan Wooten's top 50 freedom fighters? It's actually a helpful list in that you can go through this list and be like, okay, who do they want us to think is on our side? It's actually helpful in that way. You know what to do. There's links in the description of this video. If you want to support the channel financially, if you want to do that, you can do that. Because I tell you something, people that actually do try and say what they think, and people that actually do care about the world, and people that actually do care about freedoms being eroded, and people that actually did stand up for the people that didn't want to take the you-know-what, okay? We aren't these huge figures with hundreds of millions of subscribers. You know, the actual real deal, we're the people that are out here in cabins in our garden with 4,000 subscribers. We're the people that actually need your support and your help. It's not the people on this list. The people on this list are not going to do anything for you. Okay, what have they done for you? By their fruits you shall know them. Okay? So, please don't get sucked in by these kind of articles. I know that you don't, and it's quite fun to sort of ridicule it. So, I hope you enjoyed the video. Link in description if you want to support this channel, the real channel. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, and see you guys all soon. Mwah.